Some calibers stick around for decades, while others burst onto the scene and change everything. SHOT Show 2025 had an exciting lineup of cartridges designed to hit harder, shoot flatter, and solve bigger real-world problems for hunters, competitive shooters, and tactical enthusiasts. In this video, we'll talk about 7 of the newest calibers available this year, from game-changing rimfires to extreme long-range powerhouses. Stick around to know whether or not they're worth your time. We've all been using 22 LR forever, and if you're anything like me, you've always felt it was the perfect little rimfire. Winchester decided to shake things up with a fresh concept called the 21 Sharp. Some might wonder why anyone would try to compete against a cartridge that's been around since the late 1800s, but this one was never meant to replace 22 LR. It's meant to solve a problem you've probably run into if you live in a state with lead restrictions. Most non-lead 22 bullets don't shoot very well. Winchester's new 21 Sharp uses a bullet that's full diameter instead of having a heel, which boosts accuracy and keeps things cleaner. Folks in California or anywhere that bans lead projectiles should pay attention because this might be the best lead-free rimfire you've ever seen. The 21 Sharp fires bullets at velocities ranging from 1,300 to 1,750 feet per second, with the 25-grain copper matrix round reaching 1,750 feet per second, and the 34-grain JHP hitting 1,500 feet per second. Generating more energy than standard 22 LR, it delivers improved terminal performance while maintaining impressive accuracy, great for prairie dogs and rabbits. Some shooters have reported dropping varmints as far as 150 yards out, which is pretty wild for a rimfire smaller than your standard 22. You do lose some of the iconic feel and tradition of the old 22 LR, but you're getting a round more friendly to regulations and possibly more consistent in flight. At the moment, only Winchester and Savage are offering factory rifles for it. It might take time before it shows up everywhere, but I've noticed that folks who have tested it say it's far from a gimmick. I wouldn't throw my 22 LR away just yet, but I have to admit, if you want rimfire without the risk of lead, this is a strong contender. Some people would tell you nothing could top the tried-and-true 7mm Magnums, but Federal's 7mm backcountry takes that expectation and flips it on its head. This cartridge hits remarkable speeds thanks to a steel case they call peak alloy, which handles pressures up to an astonishing 80,000 psi. If you're after elk or big mule deer in steep country, the appeal is clear. You can carry a lighter rifle and still hit Magnum speed. Imagine sending a 170-grain bullet out of a 20-inch barrel at over 3,000 feet per second. Folks who've tested it on hogs and elk report reliable kills past 1,400 yards, though that depends on your skill and environment. It's not magic, but it's close to cutting edge for a 7mm. It also fits standard-length actions and BDL-style magazines in many rifles, which means you get an extra round or two compared to some chunkier Magnums. When you see those numbers, it's natural to be skeptical. How do you get that kind of velocity in a smaller rifle without blowing something up? Federal pulls it off by using a special alloy that contains more of the pressure in the case, protecting the chamber and bolt so you can launch heavy 7mm bullets from a short barrel at velocities you might normally expect from a Magnum with 4 more inches of steel. Shooters who compare it to the 7mm PRC notice that the 7mm backcountry is faster in the same bullet weights, and it keeps weight down if you want a short barrel or plan to add a suppressor. Be aware that it's brand new, so you won't see it on every store shelf yet, but Federal offers at least 5 initial loads. The 175-grain Fusion tipped load has produced impressive accuracy in test rifles, though it's not alone in that regard. Heard of the buzz about 300 blackout and 8.6 blackout in the AR world? This year, there's another big-bore contender aiming to claim the throne, Hornady's 338 ARC. If you like suppressed, heavy-hitting rounds that fit into a standard AR-15 receiver, this might be your dream cartridge. Hornady developed it using the same concept as the 6mm ARC, only sized up to 338. That means you can run a big 307-grain subsonic load for stealthy hog or deer work, or switch to a supersonic 175-grain bullet for more speed and flatter shots out to a few hundred yards. It's all about versatility, and it's generating serious chatter among folks who love quiet, powerful rifles. With subsonic loads, you're often stuck at about 1,050 feet per second, so your best bet is to go with the heaviest bullet you can stabilize to pack a bigger punch. Compared to 300 Blackout, 338 AR delivers a significant boost in downrange energy. That might matter if you want to break through heavier bone. The question is, if you already have a 300 Blackout or 8.6 Blackout, is it worth switching? Well, yes and no. The 338 ARC keeps you on the AR-15 platform, unlike the 8.6 which bumps you up to AR-10 territory. That means a lighter build, more standard parts, and all-around easier handling. But you'll need a new bolt and magazine arrangement, plus a suppressor rated for 338 bullets. That's an extra expense, and you'll probably have to be patient while more ammo and accessories trickle into the market. People who've put the 338 ARC to the test say it's surprisingly accurate, with reliable cycling and no big learning curve if you're used to an AR. Whether the industry will jump on board to deliver more rifles and ammo is anybody's guess. You've likely heard some hype about SIG's 277 Fury, especially if you follow military trials or keep an eye on next-gen firearms. SIG's big pitch is that this hybrid steel brass case can handle pressures up to a jaw-dropping 80,000 psi, allowing 270-like velocities from a barrel as short as 16 inches. It's a bold step forward in cartridge design, and the Army's interest has helped drive its development. It promises near Magnum performance in a compact format, but the journey to get it into civilian hands hasn't been simple. The Fury's ballistic numbers are eye-catching. You can push a 135-grain bullet near 3,000 feet per second from a relatively short rifle, which is normally territory for bigger, longer actions, or at least 24-inch barrels. There's a strong appeal for hunters or shooters who want 270-level power but prefer a shorter gun for tight quarters or mountainous terrain. You can imagine how that might help if you're hiking all day in rough country or planning on clearing tight corners in a tactical setting. The challenge is that you can't just rechamber an old 308 rifle, because standard actions aren't made to endure 80,000 psi. That means you need a rifle specifically built for the Fury's pressure and unique case design, like SIG's MCX Spear. Civilians who are curious might find the biggest barrier is ammo availability, which has been extremely limited. Prices are steep too. Reloading is also tricky because the case is part steel and part brass, and it's not easy to find data or reloading equipment tailored for that. SIG has signaled it won't be cheap or simple to adopt, so you might wait a while before it becomes widely accessible. Plenty of new AR-15 cartridges come and go, but the 6mm max might finally be the sweet spot. The idea is to squeeze out better ballistic performance than 5.56 without compromising reliability or forcing you into a different bolt face that might crack under pressure. By using a standard 378 bolt face and building from a 350 Legend case, the 6mm max aims to provide speed, energy, and wind performance while keeping everything in the standard AR-15 footprint. The result is a potent 6mm round that has more punch than 5.56 and is easier on bolts than 6.5 Grendel or 6mm ARC. You're looking at velocities around 2,900 feet per second with a 90-grain bullet, which offers superior muzzle energy in excess of 1,600 foot-pounds, flatter trajectories, and reduced wind drift. If you've dabbled in DMR competitions, you'll know how crucial wind calls are at 800 yards. The 6mm max lets you hold less wind, which means better first-round impacts and less guesswork. Competitive shooters who got their hands on it say they love how it keeps recoil low enough for quick follow-ups, yet still packs enough oomph to drop steel plates with authority. Before you jump in, know that you'll need specialized magazines and the right upper since it's based on the 350 Legend concept. That's not a deal breaker, but you can't just grab any AR mag off the shelf. Also, because it's new, ammo might not flood gun stores right away. You might end up ordering brass and loading your own if you want to shoot it regularly. Still, it's a fascinating AR-15 cartridge that has the potential to become your favorite if you're seeking to outshoot the wind and reach targets that are a stretch for 5.56. You've probably seen what the 6.5 Creedmoor can do, and maybe you've also watched the 6mm Creedmoor steal the show in certain competitions. Now imagine a quarter bore that merges the best traits of both. The 25 Creedmoor is basically the 6.5 Creed necked down to 2.57. At first, it was a wildcat that only a handful of folks messed with, But then bullet manufacturers started churning out high BC 257 bullets, and that changed everything. Shooters talk about launching a 131 grain bullet at around 2,850 feet per second, which can rival 6.5 speeds while delivering a little less recoil. This is huge if you enjoy quick follow-up shots or just prefer not to get pounded with heavier recoil. It also tends to be more forgiving on barrels than the 6mm Creedmoor, which is known to burn throats. That means you might get more life out of your barrel before it needs replacing. In terms of ballistics, you'll see downrange energy and speed that can compete with many established cartridges. Some folks use it for hunting medium game like whitetail, since it can carry enough punch for ethical kills while still letting you see your impacts through the scope. One thing to note is that it's not officially sanctioned by SAAMI. This means you won't find rows of 25 Creedmoor ammo at your local sporting goods store, at least not yet, and you'll likely need to roll your own loads. Berger and Hornady do offer a few bullet choices, so it's not as if you're stuck with no options. A common question is whether you should pick 25 Creedmoor over 6 or 6.5 versions. Well, it depends. If you want a bit more speed and energy than 6mm while having less recoil than the 6.5, the 25 Creedmoor could be just what you need. The 300 PRC has been turning heads among long-range shooters, and there's a reason for it. Hornady set out to design a 30 caliber round that wouldn't run into the seating depth issues of 300 Winchester Magnum or the punishing recoil of more extreme magnums like the 300 Rum. The result is a cartridge based on the 375 Ruger case, neck down to 30. It thrives on heavy, high BC bullets and can hold supersonic flight well past 1,500 yards. You'll notice the difference in both velocity and consistency. Folks commonly see 2,800 to 2,900 feet per second from a 225 grain bullet, which is fantastic if you want to ding steel at a mile or take on big game that might pop up at extended ranges. The 300 PRC doesn't feel overbore, so it's easier on your barrel than something like the 30 Nosler, and that's great for frequent practice sessions. It does recoil a bit more than 300 Winchester Magnum, but if your rifle is heavy enough, or if you use a muzzle brake or suppressor, it's not unmanageable. The main downside is that you won't find as many factory rifles chambered in 300 PRC compared to 300 Win Mag, and the ammo can cost a fair amount. You might face some limits on selection at smaller gun shops, so if you're planning to run it in serious long-range events, you'll likely do some reloading. Once you're set up, the potential is incredible. It outruns 300 Win Mag in ballistic coefficient potential and doesn't require the same bullet seating compromises. If you're the kind of shooter who dreams of pushing 30 cal bullets beyond a mile, or you just want a hunting round with unstoppable power at longer ranges, you might find the 300 PRC to be exactly the cartridge you've been waiting for. And that's it for this video. SHOT Show 2025 delivered some of the most innovative calibers we've seen in a while. Whether you're into AR builds, long-range precision, or just looking for a fresh new round to try, there's something for everyone. So which new caliber caught your eye the most? Sound off in the comments, let's get a discussion going. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe, and make sure to click that bell icon so you never miss a new video. Thanks for watching.